everyone.
Good
This is
evening.
a great workshop that we enjoy doing it because let's face it, home buying is a very important part of our lives. It's memorable. We're never going to forget it, and we want to make it as smooth as transition as possible. Home inspection has changed drastically over the years. Case in point is that in the 1960s, only 40% of all homes sold got a private home inspection in 1960, 40%. And then over the years, now we've got more people getting home inspections. Some 90 to 95% of all people buying homes now will get a home inspection. A lot of people question that. They said, these are brand new homes. It's a reputable builder. Why would I need such a thing? Well, sometimes it's the builders may be reputable, but sometimes it is the contractors that they may have for a particular job. So with that, different contractors have different skills. Also, we need to understand that in this area, it's one of the fastest growing areas in the state and in the country. We've got more people coming here all the time, and so we have a vast home buyers market is thriving a lot. So you do need a private home inspection because city county inspectors just don't have the time to dedicate to your home with all the inspection that we got going on. Another example is inspectors in the Durham City County area, they do 12 to 13 inspections a day, and that's increasing. The demand continues to go up. So they're going to be at an average house 5 to 10 minutes, where I'm going to be there 2 to 3 hours. It just depends on the age of the property, depending on the condition of it. That makes a big difference. So a lot of people ask at this point in time, so what do you look for in an inspection? Well, one thing that I like to look at is I like to stand off and look at the roof of the house. And the reason why I'm looking at the roof of the house, because I want to see if there's any waves or dips in the roof. If you've ever standing off and looked at a roof, you'll see sometimes there'll be low-lying areas and it's wavy. Well, what causes that? Well, there's several things that could possibly be the cause. One could be before they put the shingles on that roof, the felt paper, it may have rained. And if it rained, then that sheathing will begin to buckle and it would be real loose and wavy. Another potential issue with that roof could be that the spacing on the rafters could be too far apart. Let's say, for example, rafters in this area, they used to be either very few 16-inch on center now. It's usually 2 foot on center. And that's fine, as long as you use a minimum of 1/2 inch. If you use a 1/2 inch sheathing, then you'll be okay, but sometimes they'll use 3/8. So therefore, that roof will have waves and dips in it because the sheathing itself is dipping. And so we'll see that. Another problem could be the lack of adequate attic insulation, ventilation. If a house does not have adequate ventilation, over time, the excess heat and moisture that comes from air in the attic will make it buckle and begin to wave. So that's why now we're recommending most reputable builders will have the ridge vents as well as the soffit vent to make sure that that house is getting adequate ventilation. So if you see me standing off and look at your roof when you drive up, I'm not in love with your house. I'm doing it for a particular reason. Something else that I'm going to look for is, as I go around the house, I want to look for bowing in walls and ceilings. Sometimes a bow doesn't necessarily affect the structural integrity of a house, but you will see it the rest of your life when you buy that house. You'll also see that the walls are not straight, they're not level, they're not plumb, and it just happens so it will just really get to you over a period of time. So I'm going to look for that as well. When I go into your house, I'm going to look for daylight around windows and doors. Now, why do you think I might be looking for daylight around windows and doors? Anyone want to guess? When our home buyers.
To see if there's air coming through the windows.
Exactly. Well, if there's any gaps around the doors and windows, we can have air penetration. And if air is penetrating your house in the wintertime, what's going to happen?
You're going to lose heat.
That is correct. And your utility bill is going to do what?
Go up.
It's going to go up.
Go high.
Yeah. How about in the summertime, if you've got air infiltration around windows or doors, what's going to happen then?
The air. You're going to lose your AC in the house.
That's right. So we've got to turn up our air conditioner a lot higher, and our utility bill is going to go up. So what we're in effect trying to do, we're trying to heat or cool the exterior, the elements, and we're not going to win on that, I assure you. The elements will always win if you try to do that. And when you do that, when you have high utility bills, the only one who benefits from that is Duke Energy. You know, they get to buy brand new trucks and we don't get to ride in them. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So something else that I'm going to look for, I go in your house and let's say everything is straight. There's no air infiltration around windows and doors. I'm going to look for stains in your ceilings or on your walls. What do you think that might be coming from? Stains.
Foundation.
Why not?
The foundation may be cracking or something.
Yeah, but we're talking about a stain. There's a mark in your ceiling. Look like it's wet. Or you see a stain down your wall. Wow, what's causing that?
A leak.
That's
A leak
exactly
somewhere.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we've got a leak, then it's going to penetrate. Now, in addition to the easy fix for that leak, a lot of sellers, especially when they know they're getting ready to sell a property, they will go out and they will buy what they call kilts. Do anyone know what kilts is? Go ahead, Melissa.
Oh, it kills the bacteria, like before your primer and your paint on the walls.
Absolutely. It's a stain blocker, and it's one of the best on the market. So sometimes a builder, if they know they're getting ready to sell that property, rather than to go and fix the roof, go to the heart of the problem, they use a stain blocker. Well, do you think that is a temporary fix or is it a permanent fix?
Yeah.
Temporary.
Temporarily.
That's exactly right. It's going to be temporary. So all you're doing is masking the problem. Now, if you let a roof leak too long, what's going to happen is we're going to have environmental issues. And they call those mold and mildew. Now, mold and mildew can really create some really serious health issues, especially people with health issues and people that have problems with asthma, small kids whose system has not developed properly. So that can cause problems. So we do not want that to happen. And there's one mold that I want to tell you about. The name of it is Stachybotrys. Stachybotrys, or the black mold, is very deadly. So we don't want that. So I'm going to look for that when I go into your house as well. Now, in addition to the stain, there's something else I'm going to be looking for is cracks on walls and ceiling. What could cause that? I think Nita had said it earlier.
Foundation.
Why not? Cracks in your walls or ceiling.
Yeah, I heard Naya say foundation.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, foundation issues. Now, with foundation issues, they can be very extensive and they can be very costly as well. For example, if you got a crack in your foundation and your house begin to give way, over time, a lot of people see a crack and they think, well, you know, it's nothing major, just a small crack. But what happens is over time, as that house begins to settle, that crack get larger and larger. And you'll notice shifting in windows and doors. That's why we definitely look for cracks in those areas. Now, if you got a crack over your windows and doors, I mean, you can do some minor repairs in order to get that window to work. But do you think that's a temporary fix or is it a permanent fix?
Temporary.
It's once again, it's temporary. You know, I've seen contractors when doors beginning to shift because it's beginning to, because the crack is compressed, they go and they can use a sander, they can use sandpaper, or they can use electric sander. And that door will work properly for a little while. But over time, that shifts continues, and that can be massive where sometimes we even have to recommend the help of a structural engineer. So we want to look for that as well. In addition for that, we're looking for your outlets. I'm going to check your outlets. I'm going to check every last one of them. Now, the housing code says, you know, you don't have to check every outlet. We only have to check a representative sample. A representative sample constitutes 1 or 2 per room. I check every last one of them. And the reason being is the one that you don't check, that is the one you're going to have problems with. So we want to make sure we check every last one of them. Same thing for windows, the same thing for doors. Have you ever heard of reverse polarity? Do anyone know what that means? Reverse polarity. It's dealing with the electrical system.
No.
Okay. Well, reverse polarity is when your hot wire and your neutral wire is reversed. That's why they call it reverse polarity. Now, your appliances, all your gadgets will work, but over time, do you know it can damage your system? Your TV, your refrigerator, your microwave. So we want to make sure that the wiring is done properly. That's why in my tester, that's why I test every outlet to make sure that it's wired correctly, because if it's wired wrong, then that can cost you a lot of money. You go look at the house, and a lot of first-time home buyers, they're so in love with the house, they don't see anything wrong with it until I get there, and they said, well, I hadn't noticed that. Well, you don't have a trained eye, and you're looking at it for the aesthetics of it rather than the structural integrity. So I'm going to look at that as well. How about another one? Squeaky floors. Squeaky floors. What do you think caused that? You walk over a floor and it squeaks.
The flooring wasn't properly installed.
Yeah, it wasn't properly installed. A lot of times what they did is, in the old days, they used to nail the sheathing down. And so over time, as a house heats and cools, what happens is that nail becomes loose. So whenever you walk across your floor, you notice a squeak. Well, it's an easy fix. Now, if it's in a room with carpet. But if you're in a room where that's got tile in it, what's going to happen is that you're going to see cracks in the joints in that tile. Carpet, you can pull it back, use screws in it, and then that squeak will go away. But it's not so easy, like I said, on tile or if you got vinyl floor covering. So I check that as well. I want to make sure that there's no squeaks in the floor because it can be extensive. The screws itself doesn't cost much, but it's that professional that comes out to make that repair, it can be very extensive. So we want to make sure you don't have that problem as well. Now, something else I'm going to look at, I'm going to look at your plumbing system. How many of you have ever been in a house and you run your shower or the dishwasher comes on or another appliance come on in the house that uses water and you notice the water pressure drops substantially? Is that okay?
No.
No, you don't want that okay. Imagine you've got family over, you've got guests, you want to take a shower and everyone, the dishwasher's on, the washer dryer's on, and you get to go take a shower and all of a sudden is the pressure drops, or worse yet, you get no water at all. So I check that to make sure that house has adequate water pressure. It's not unusual for it to drop some, but it should not be substantial. If it drops substantial, then we need to get a plumber in there. Now, there's a certain amount of pressure that comes from the street. But once it leaves that water meter from the water meter on the side where your house is, then you are responsible for it. The city of Durham is not going to get involved because if they turn that water pressure up too high, what could happen is what do you think may happen in your house if they turn the water pressure up too high?
Your pipes are bust
You got
from
it.
the pressure.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's why from the your side forward to your house, that's why the city does not get involved and they will not turn it up too high. So we want to look for that as well. Now we want to check for leaks. We want to check, I'm going to go to each and every bathroom, everywhere there's water, even your washer dryer, to make sure that there's no leaks. Sometimes the leaks are not substantial. Sometimes it's just a small leak. And you may think nothing of it. You said, oh, it's nothing to it. Well, what it's done is, especially behind wash and dryer, because people don't move those areas or they don't pay attention. So what I see happen a lot of times is it's rotting the wall, that's damaging the wall behind your washer. So I'm going to look for that. I'm going to make sure that it's not a slow leak. Sometimes it's even inside the wall. That's why it's important that you look closely. In the kitchen, when I go in there, I want to make sure that the water pressure is adequate. I want to make sure if you got a sprayer, I want to make sure that it works, because sometimes they will leak and they will leak under the counter. And a lot of times I go to inspect the property and people got so much stuff under the counter where they store stuff, whether it's cleaning supplies. A lot of times that can hide damage. Also, a lot of times is I make sure I look thoroughly where your plumbing goes through the wall. Sometimes it's not sealed off properly. What do you think can come in that hole around that drain? Anybody want to take a guess?
Water,
No,
water,
not
snakes, bugs.
bugs. That's exactly right. Vermin. We got roaches. We got rodents can come in. That's what they look for. They look for entry into your property. If you got a house with for example, a crawl space, I go into there, that pipe has to go out. So rodents and vermin, they look for entry. So I'm going to look for that. A lot of times you'll see on my report where it says the area under the kitchen sink or the bathroom sink is not finished properly. So what happens to that is that's where rodents come in. So I'm going to look for that as well. Now, let's say I go in your house and you've got an upstairs. And so I start to walk upstairs and you've got a handrail. Do you think I'm going to check that out? And why do you think
Yes.
that's important?
Yeah, safety.
Exactly. It's a safety. Even outside, I go into a house from the outside. I want to check, make sure that handrail is secured properly, as well as the guardrails around your porch. Sometimes they're loose. Now, here's something a lot of people forget. Let's say I'm on the outside of your property. Let's say your handrail is real secure. But let's say between your pickets, those are the brackets between the handrail and the bottom rail and the top rail. Sometimes they are too far apart, or sometimes there's no pickets at all. What can happen in a case like that with a small child?
They can fall through.
They can fall through. Yeah, so I'm going to look for pickets on your handrail as well as your guardrail. Now, going up the stairs that I just mentioned, if it becomes loose, and kids running up and down it, you can grab it, let's say, and if it's not real tight, you could trip and fall down and hurt yourself as well as children themselves. So I'm going to look for that. Now, let's talk about something else in the house that a lot of times people take for granted. Let's say a ceiling fan. A ceiling fan is very good and they work very well. It can help reduce our utility bills. But did you know that most people don't use ceiling fans properly? And the people might ask here, what is it to do but just turn the ceiling fan on? Well, here's how you can save yourself and save yourself some money and reduce utility bills. In the wintertime, we know hot air goes up, right?
Right.
So in the wintertime, with hot air up, we want to make sure our ceiling fan is turned on clockwise. Why do we want that on clockwise?
So it can circulate.
Hot air rise, if it's clockwise, it pushes the hot air down. That makes your home a lot more comfortable, and therefore you don't have to turn your air conditioner up as hot. I mean, in the wintertime, you don't have to turn your heat as high because it's helping push that air down. It makes your house more comfortable. In the summer times, when it's hotter, we know hot air continues to rise. We want to do just the opposite. We want our ceiling fans on counterclockwise. Why is that?
To push the heat up.
Right. What we want to
Keep
do
it
is
cool.
bring the cool air down below. We want to raise it up. So once again, that ceiling fan is raising the cool air up, and it's circulating air all over your house, and it makes your house a lot cooler and a lot more comfortable. Makes sense. Does that make sense? So I'm going to check those things. Now, after that, I'm inspecting all your bathrooms. I'm checking your bedrooms. I'm going to open every window and door. Now, why would I check the windows? Why do you
So
think
they
that's
open or close.
Why now?
To make sure that they are opening and closing properly and locking.
Exactly. We want our windows and doors open properly. Now, I go into a lot of older houses. Those windows are extremely hard to open, or sometimes they will paint them shut. Now, we may think nothing of it. We say, if there was an emergency, I'll just break a glass. But think about our young people. A small child may not think that way of to break the glass to try to get out. They panic in an emergency. So if your windows can raise easily, that makes it much easier and it's safer for your families to get out safely in a expeditious manner. Does that make sense? Would we want to do that?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's say I'm out inspecting your property and you're there with me. But I want you to know that about 50 to 60% of all the homes I inspect, I never even meet the buyer. How many of you think that's a good idea?
It's
No.
not, because you need to be to know what's going on with that house. You need to be present.
Very good. Very good. That's right. We want to be there. So if you want to know where the main circuit breakers are, so if there's an emergency, you can shut them down. You need to know where the main shut off of the water faucet. So if somebody's there's a water leak, you want to be able to know where to turn it off. So we get to another point. You see the inspector. Do you think it's okay to ask an inspector questions if you got a question?
Yes.
Absolutely. That inspector is there working for you. You're the boss, not the inspector. So any reputable inspector will entertain your questions. Now, a word of caution here. If you've got questions, make sure the inspector get to a good point. Because if you ask too many questions, you may throw off our train of thought in the direction we're going. And we may miss something. So let's say I'm inspecting this room. You got something you really want to ask me. You might want to wait until I just about finish with that room. And before I leave that room, you say, I've got a question. And do that as much as you like. That's very important. You become more knowledgeable about whatever's going on, and it will relieve you of any concerns that you may have. You do not want that inspector to leave your property without addressing your concerns. because even you may forget it later. So address it then. But let's say, because we're human, we do forget. Let's say you do forget to ask a question. That's a burning question. Just jot them down and ask the inspector. Call me up. I'm going to call you back. I'm going to address any concerns. Now, a lot of times, if you wait 3 or 4 days because I'm doing so many inspections, I might forget that particular house. But when I get back to the office, I'm going to pull that inspection report up on my computer, and then we can entertain as many questions as you have. So don't feel uncomfortable about asking questions. Is that okay? Did it make sense to you?
Yes.
Yes.
Some questions you might want to ask an inspector, before you select an inspector. A lot of people, they just automatically let the realtor go decide who the inspector is because they build a relationship with them. Sometimes inspectors build up a relationship with realtors and the inspector become more indebted to the realtor than they are to you. So it's okay for you to say, I want my own inspector. I know this inspector. I've met him. I've talked to him or her. I feel comfortable with them. That is a good thing because you do want somebody to represent you and not someone else. Now, after the report is done, and you might wonder, well, when do I get my inspection report? Well, the standards is you must have that inspection report to them within 72 hours. 3 days, you should have your report. The only time that changes is if you have made some other arrangement or you put it into the contract. It's okay the 4th day or the 5th day. But you want your report as soon as possible so that you can read it. Now, something else I want you to know. When you get your inspection report, please read it. You'd be surprised how many inspections I do, and I call people routinely and ask them, did they get the inspection report in a timely manner? Did they have any questions? And some people would tell me they never read the report. If you never read the report, how do you know what the inspector found and what you should be concerned about before you close on that house? Because if you don't, you could buy that house. You can't come back later and say, I didn't know. That's why you want to read your report. So ask any questions. So another question you might want to ask an inspector, how long have you been inspecting? Now, something else here's a little secret I'm going to share with you guys about inspectors. You could ask them, what is your inspection number? What is your license number? Now, why do you think I'm recommending that? Any questions?
Maybe you can go on, what is it, the Better Business Bureau, and maybe check some information out there to see if they're credible.
That's exactly right. But you also want to understand that the lower the number, the longer they've been inspected. Suppose somebody said, my inspection number is 3005. And someone else says, my inspection number is 1003. Who's been inspected longer?
1003.
The second.
1003. That's exactly right. So that's just another tidbit that you might want to learn. So that's a good thing to do. Something else you could ask the inspector? Are you a part of a home inspection association? Do you attend that association? Do you get regular training and updates? The state of North Carolina requires that we get 8 hours every year of training. We get 12 hours, and some of the younger inspectors just starting out, they have to get 16 credit hours this year. But inspection, we have to get 8 hours of elected, and then we have to get 4 hours of required courses that the state requires every year. So you want to make sure that they're doing that. And you have to do that in order to maintain your certification in the state of North Carolina. So feel free to ask as many questions that you have. Now, a lot of people get confused between the difference between a home inspection and an appraisal. So let me ask y'all this question. Do y'all know the difference between a home inspection and appraisal? Anybody?
The appraisal is for the pretty much the value of the home, opposed to the inspection where you're checking the home to make sure that everything is in working order.
That is correct. Very good. Inspection want to know the condition of the property, where a real estate appraiser is more interested in, they do want to look at the condition. They do have certain things to look at, but they're also concerned about the value. Let me give you a case in point. Suppose the appraiser came out and you know that this house, you can see it's got loose and flaking paint. The windows need to be replaced. But they also come up with a high value. What do you think causing that appraiser to come up with a high value, even though it has loose and flaking paint? What do you think causing it?
The area is in.
You
The
got
area is in.
Yes, that's very good. True. Sometimes the area in which you live, the house could be in bad shape structurally, but it could have a high value because people say, listen, in this neighborhood, houses are selling for $300,000. So when they tell you location, 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 they really mean it. So that have a lot to do with it. So we want to make sure that that we do that as we inspect the property. Something else, we talked about you should be there. You should make sure that you have an home inspection, regardless of how good that house looks. Sometimes it may have problems that you can't see. For example, in the attic. It may have problems in the crawl space. I go into houses all the time that are brand new. No one has ever moved in them. They've got one of the locks that need to be aligned, which can be misaligned, which could be very dangerous if that was an emergency. Sometimes the wiring is not done properly in a brand new house. So you want to make sure you're present and make sure that you are there for the entire time. And if for some reason that you can't be there, make sure you have a representative of yours there. Because if not, then some inspectors will be in and out of there in a short period of time. Which brings me to another question. How long should that inspection last? Well, it depends on the age, it depends on the condition. Some inspectors, I've had people to tell me, the inspector was here only an hour. I said, what size is square foot? Oh, it was 1,800 square feet. It was 2,000 square feet or 2,500. Well, if that inspector is only there an hour, hour and a half, then I would be really concerned. Because an average inspection is going to take anywhere from 2 to 3 hours to do a thorough inspection. And so if you want to make sure you're a part of it, that's why you're there. A lot of times I go to an inspection, I stay there at a house longer, believe it or not, when no one is there than when they're there. And the reason being is I've got more time to look at it, to take my time, where if I'm there, they got various questions. I've got to entertain those, and I've got to maintain a certain structure in that inspection. So I'm going to do that. So make sure you'll be a part of it from day one, from the very beginning. You decide who your inspector is. Make sure you're there. Now, what I do to help first-time home buyers is because I know that you have tough schedules. So what I do is I work with you. We can do your inspections early morning. I'll work with you at a time convenient for you. You might want your inspection later in the afternoon. I can work with that. Or sometimes I'll even work with you when you want your inspection on the weekend. So you want to make sure that you are actively involved. Now, do any of you have any questions for me at this point?
How much does an inspection usually cost?
That is an excellent question. How much does an inspection cost? Some inspectors charge based not only on the size of the house, how many square feet it is, but they also tap in another fee if the age of it. I don't. I go strictly by the size of the house. If your house is up to 1,500 square feet, an inspection would be $375. But if you are a first-time home buyer, it's $350. If your house is 1,501 to 2,000 square feet, it would be $400. But if you are a first-time home buyer, you get a $25 discount and it would be $375. Psychologists say 70% of everything we've heard yesterday, we forget today. No one has ever forgotten a discount. They always remind you that they got a discount. So yeah, make sure when you call that you let me know that you are a first-time home buyer, you attended this class, and I will make sure you get a discount. Any other questions that you may have? If not, we're going to have now what we call the Homebuyers Awareness Test. No one ever fails this.
I have a quick question before I pull this up.
Okay.
Huh?
So the
No, I'm almost finished.
house inspected. Let me mute this real quick.
I'm almost finished this.
Or an offer. So, are there things that we should be when we're looking at homes? What are the top 5 or 3 things you think we should be looking for as major things that we should know? This is something I'm really aware of before I offer this house.
Absolutely. There's little things that you can do. When you drive up to your neighborhood, look for loose and flaking paint. Here's one that a lot of people may not think about. Look at trees, overhanging tree limbs. Because overhanging tree limbs, every fall something happens. What do you think happened in the fall of the year? Every year it happens.
Leaves.
Trees, the limbs, the branches.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We have tree limbs that can fall. We have the leaves that drop. And if you got gutters, what's going to happen?
They get clogged.
Yeah, they get clogged. And who's going to have to pay to fix that if we don't do it ourselves?
We're going to have to.
Yeah, we're going to have to. So we want to look for those things. So you want something else you can look for? Now you've looked at a house. You want to see where the yard, how the yard slopes. Let's say, for example, in your backyard, there's a hill in your backyard. And your house is down from the hill. Where is water going to run when it rains?
Towards your house?
Towards your house. And that foundation is what's going to get that water. And we know that it can be, if you got water under your foundation, that can be very detrimental. That's why you have to keep water out from under your house, because eventually your foundation will give. Look for cracks in windows. Look for cracks. These are things you can do. You know, we talked about squeaky floors. Look for that as well. Open the door, see if it closed properly. Make sure that there's no daylight around there. Those are things you can do. Make sure there's not a loose handrail anywhere. Excellent question. Any additional questions?
I have a question. You had mentioned earlier on in regards to the stain blockers. How do you detect that there was a stain blocker put up?
Okay.
Like, how would you know as you're walking through?
As I walk through, I like shining my light. I've got a big flashlight. And for the stain, if you get the right angle, it will let you know that there's been a stain. But in addition to that, just to make sure, I have a moisture meter that I can put on ceilings, I can put on walls, and it'll tell me the moisture content of that particular even though you may not be able to see the stain, but that'll let me know if you have high moisture content. But that's not all. Also, I'm going to look for it when I go in the attic. The attic is a telltale sign because the insulation will shrink in those areas where it's received water. So even if they cover that up, that's why I want to look at the insulation. It will compress that insulation. And you got a lot of inspectors that will not go in the attic. So, but that's an excellent question. Very good. Proud. Melissa, I'm waiting for you. I know you've got some questions that you'll think of. There's no dumb questions in this class. If you thought of it, someone else did too.
This is my first one, so.
So now let's go to the home buyers awareness test. This is true or false. Here's the first one. A home inspection will cost on an average between $500 to $1,000. Is that true or false? It's false. You see how easy this test is? No one ever forgets, and no one ever gets it wrong. All I got to do is give them a little time to look. How about number two? When purchasing a home, you do not need the services of a professional home inspector.
Oh,
Suppose the seller tell you, I just did all this magnificent work. Why would you waste your money to get it inspected?
I want to make sure it's done right.
That's exactly right. You've got a lot of sellers, rather than get professionals to do work, you know what they will do? They will do it themselves because they can save lots of money. So that's why you want to make sure it's done properly and done professionally. That's why some people, when they buy new homes, they would get me out to do what we call construction inspections. Let's say before they pour the foundation, I go out and look at it.
Yeah.
After they lay the blocks, that costs you a little more, but it ensures that your house is built correctly from the foundation up. Now, builders do not like that. You are the buyer, and you have that option to do that as long as you can get it up front. Tell them you're going to have your inspector look at it. Number three, if you find problem with the house after a contract has been signed, the seller is usually more than willing to help you with your little problem.
false.
No.
False.
That's correct. There's a reason why they call it closing. When it's closed, it's closed. So you want to make sure that you have your inspection done. Now, I've got to warn you guys something. This is very important. Don't forget this. There's some realtors out there that tell you, don't get a home inspection. This is a brand new house. Get it inspected after your 1 year warranty. Why do you think that's a bad idea?
Because after the 1 year warranty, it's on you.
You got it. You want to get that done up front because a 1 year warranty is different than in the initial home inspection. The initial home inspection, when you go there and you find things, they want to close, right? And they want to close yesterday. They're more than likely to fix it. After the 1 year warranty, they're going to tell you, listen, I only do structural things. That is no longer covered. So some realtors are doing that. Plus, some realtors want to get that done on the end because they've already collected their money, their fees, see? So don't let anybody convince you anyway. Get it done up front and still get your 1 year warranty. We're going to skip number 4 because it's no longer adequate in this area. We've got buyers are having to bid on property. So we won't cover 4, but let's go to number 5. Always forego a home inspection. Is that true or false? It will save you money in the end.
Wow.
That is false. Always get your home inspected and get it up front and tell them up front.
Yeah.
Number 6,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
if a realtor does not recommend Raphael Reels to do your home inspection, it is only because they have your best interests at heart and they want to save you money. Is that true or false?
Wow.
That is false. A lot of realtors don't like me. They know I'm an inspector in a long time. And they tell me, Raphael, you are a good inspector, but you just write up too many things. And it may force us to lose a sale. So that's why we don't recommend you. But guess what? When their aunt, their uncle, their best friends get ready to buy a house, guess who they call? Then they call me. That's exactly right. So that happens a lot all the time. So some other question you guys may have is this. I'm buying a house, for example, in Mebane, or I'm buying a house in Raleigh. Will Raphael go there? Yes. In fact, I'll go anywhere in the state of North Carolina that you have an inspection. I charge a little more to go there, but typically I will only add $50 to $75 to your bill. So whatever your home inspection is here in Durham, it would not be over that plus 75. For example, last week I was in Oak Island. I'm in, okay, then I go to Morehead City. I'm from Beaufort, I go there. So don't worry about where it is, as long as in North Carolina, I'll take care of it for you. Number 7, the realtor only works for the buyer. Is that true or false?
Depends.
Yeah, not necessarily, unless it is a buyer's agent or a dual agent, then the realtor then is a sub-agent of the agent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's something that could get y'all in trouble, so I want to make sure it doesn't happen to you. Let's say you go to Beazer or you go to KB Homes and you go into the office, you want to buy a house, and all of a sudden they give you coffee and donuts. I want to let you know that that agent at that house, that model home works for the builder, not for you. I don't care how many cups of coffee they give you. I don't care how many donuts they give you. They still work for them. So you want your own agent, you want your inspector. Now, they also have a quality inspector. Now, who does that quality inspector work for?
The builder.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. The quality inspector works for the builder. So you want to make sure that you have your own inspector. Regardless of who it is, you choose your inspector because that quality inspector works for them. Number 8, you do not need to be at the home inspection. It is too time consuming. Is that true or false?
Off.
Yeah, most of us will pay more for our home than we will any other investment in our lifetime. Let me ask you this question. Suppose you came on a car lot to buy a car from me, and I told you, I'll sell you the car, but I won't let you try it out. Would you buy a car from me?
No.
No, you wouldn't. Well, that's what you're doing with a house. If you buy a home and don't get it inspected properly, it's like buying a car and don't get to test drive it. Because that's what that inspection is really about. It is a test drive. You want to see, I've been into some homes, beautiful homes, $500,000, $600,000 homes, had some major issues, major structural issues, because they were not built properly. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen to you. Now, do we have another one, or is that the last question? Yeah, I think that was the last one. Now we're going to entertain any additional questions you may have for me in the home buying process.
I do have a question. So you find a house, but the house was under contract previously, but the contract didn't fall through for the previous person, but they did an inspection. Should you take that inspection or still do your own inspection of the home?
Once again, that is an excellent question. You remember when we first started out, we talked about inspectors who had
Yes.
been working longer and have more experience than others. You remember we talked
Right.
about that?
Yes.
Just because they have a previous inspection, I've had people that try that to say they're gonna save money. You want your own inspector to look at it. That inspector that did it, it's not that they necessarily did a bad job, but they was working for that particular buyer, and a home can change from one day to the other, believe it or not. You can go into a house today and everything is fine, and a leak can occur tonight. Without anybody, the inspector left, he didn't even know it, because an inspection is good as of the day of the inspection. Anything can happen after you leave from there. So even if they have an inspection, you want your own inspector to look at it. But that's an excellent question. Any additional questions? Do you think it's important to get one?
Yes.
Yes, you do. And even your warranty inspection, 1 year later, they're cheaper. They don't cost you as much as that. But a lot of times things can happen from the time you close on your property till the next year, that 1 year warranty, a lot of things can happen. So you want to make sure you get a check. Because what they would do, they would come out and they're only obligated to do the structural things, but they may have promised you that they were going to fix something and they don't come back and do it. That is your last chance to get it documented by a professional home inspection before your 1 year warranty ends. Because once it's over, it's over. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen to us. Anything else? On the worksheet, you should have my card, my telephone number, which is 919-306-5387. Or you can call my office at 919-306-7067. And you can see at the bottom of the screen, you can see my email address. You can get in touch with me. I am very busy, needless to say. But I guarantee you that I will get back in touch with you, and I will entertain any questions you may have. Now, a lot of times what will happen is somebody will say, I made a mistake, I wanted to get an inspection, but time got away on me and I just didn't have time to do it. Well, it's too big of investment for you not to make time. It's too big an investment for you not to be there. You may have other issues, you buy a house in the county, you may have bad water. You might want to get it tested. We do that. Radon, you can't see it, smell it, or taste it, but it's the second leading cause of lung cancer in this country, next to smoking. We do that as well. We talked about mold, the asbestos. You buy an older house, you might have lead. So those are environmental concerns that you need to be concerned about, and that's why it's important to address those issues based on the age and of that property. We do.
I have a question.
And we do termite. Yes, go ahead.
The different inspections that I see that's up on the screen now, like for instance, like the radon and the septic, are those separate charges outside of what you had mentioned for those particular ones?
Yes, they are. For the well water, you can get that done for $350. Radon is $175. Mold is about $250. But those things you can do. And we do commercial inspection. We also do termite inspections, Typically, if you do several inspections, you'll get a discount. So we can help you on that. So that's why
I'm sorry. I also wanted to ask you a question in regards to when you were talking about new construction. How much was something like that? What the the range, because I know you mentioned like when they pour the foundation, you come out, if they, during different phases of the new build. So like an estimate, like how much would that run?
If you did an inspection for every area, then you could be up to, it's $175 per inspection. If you do all of them, I'll do it for $150. But we can narrow it down to the foundation and what we do after foundation. Let's make sure that's correct to save you some money. We can do a pre-drywall, which is $175. That looks at the structural, it looks at the electrical, rough ends, the plumbing rough ends, that's $175. That lets you know that at least the structural is intact prior to doing the inspection, the full inspection at the end of it, and that can save you some money.
Thank you.
Now, you may think of something after you leave here, after this meeting is over, but call me, you can text me, you've got my email address. That's what we're here for. Any other questions?
I also just wanted to flag, I dropped in the chat the direct link to a folder where lots of resources are from Homebuyers, but this particular link links to the flyer that we just showed and the test. And then following this, I'll upload the video. So if there's something that you forgot that you want to go back and listen to again, you'll be able to find it there.
Very good.
Well, excellent. Thank you all very much. And I wanted to just make a couple announcements. This is our next to last class for this year. And December is our celebration, and you'll get certificates, and you'll have a special presentation, workshop on couponing with Stacy Day, who's a former Duke home buyer. She owns her home now. And she's just lots of fun, and they'll probably run over into February, because we skipped January. So it gives you time. She usually runs a competition with a really nice prize. So it's lots of fun, and you'll learn how to save if you want to do couponing. She's the expert. And hopefully the competition is about saving money, not spending money. So it's not like, if you spend more, you win. It's more like, what kind of, amazing discount you got off of something that, like food, things that you need, because we want you to save every penny over the holidays if you can. Great. Any questions about the Homebuyer Club in general?
I just have a question, like throughout all the meetings we've been having, I know they're dropped on the link, but also is the contact information also listed in those in the links that are being dropped? Because there was a couple classes I missed, so I want to make sure I get all the information.
That's a good question. I'm not sure the answer to that. So if we have missing information, maybe we can compile a document, Larissa, that has everybody's.
Yes, I can attempt to do that. I'll get that prepared for December. And is there a particular program, Nita, that you are interested in the links?
Actually, like this one right now, I'm not somewhere where I have readily available tools to write with. And make documentation. I can't, unfortunately, my screenshot is not working. So like I would like Mr. Raphael's information. Also,
I will send what's in the chat to you for
thank
this one. I'll do that right now. But I think we'll try to do a one sheet of resources for the December meeting, so people have everything hopefully in one place.
Thank you. And just a question for you. I'm sorry, just one last question, because I still know that I personally still need to meet with you, Ms. Larissa. And I know you said to reach out to Rosa. Do you know what your scheduling looks like how far you are with scheduling appointments?
Yeah, so after Monday, I'm going to be pretty much free. I usually keep my Fridays free for lead and healthy home visits. But okay. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week should be okay.
Okay,
and
you have
taking a class on Naya, you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Okay, Melissa, any questions? All right.
Well, thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
I'll leave the meeting now.
Thank you so
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
You're welcome.
All right, y'all. That's all for today. So if you don't have any more questions, you can pop off.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
So I have a real quick question for you, Eliza.